All right, the Aztecs last night, they lost to Washington State 29-26. Felt like maybe this was going to be the win for Sean Lewis of the year, the best win in the Sean Lewis era, early Sean Lewis era so far. But instead, it just goes in as another loss, and now the Aztecs are back to under 500 at 3-4. Obviously not a great start to the season. And you look at their biggest games: Oregon State, Cal, Washington State, 0-3 in those games. So if you're an Aztecs fan, you could definitely look at that and be like, yeah, they're not having that great of a season right now, but it is year one of the Sean Lewis era, and we'll see how they do with the rest of this Mountain West Conference play here, obviously, with Washington State obviously not being a conference game. That will be, coming up here in a few years when the Aztecs join the Pac-12. But for me, this came down to mistakes. It came down to, I don't know what the refs were looking at. It came down to having some guys not be available due to some decisions it seems like they made. Because I was listening to Sean Lewis postgame, and he started off before taking questions talking about how there were multiple Aztecs not dressed. He didn't mention them by name, but I was reading in the San Diego Union Tribune, and it did list I believe it was 3 players that ended up not dressing. They had a starting wide receiver out, they had a starting tight end out, and then third string quarterback AJ Duffy didn't dress. All 3 watched in street clothes, I'm reading from the UT, as punishment for a violation of team rules. And again, Sean Lewis did talk about that. He didn't mention them by name again, but he did mention that at the beginning of the press conference. And so maybe that would have helped the Aztecs. But really, I thought they had some good drives. There was creativity, obviously, with the passing touchdown, not by Danny O'Neal on one of these touchdowns, but by wide receiver Jordan Napier to wide receiver Nate Bennett in the third quarter. Marquez Cooper obviously was able to have an impact on this game. As you saw here, 18 carries, couple of touchdowns. I think he has 40 in his college football career now. But yeah, as you can see here, multiple guys that ended up throwing passes in this game for the Aztecs. Danny O'Neal, he did miss time because he hurt, I believe, that left shoulder. At one point, the sideline reporter on the CBS Sports broadcast was saying that Danny couldn't lift his left arm above his shoulder. So it was unclear if he was going to be able to return. Obviously, he was able to return. But then there was that costly interception in the second half where, I think it was fourth quarter, where, I don't know, maybe CBS Sports didn't show us the best angle, because the angle that they showed, it seemed pretty obvious that he didn't see. There was a Washington State defender right in front of the receiver where Danny was trying to get it to. So I'm not totally sure what he was looking at there. Again, unless that angle wasn't great and we could have seen a better angle maybe from the back to see his view. But yeah, that was obviously costly. I know they lost by 3. It's not like they lost by 1, but there was an opportunity to go for 2. They were down by 2 at one point, I believe. They go for 2, but they didn't have Danny O'Neal on the field. So they went with a disguised fake sort of thing. But it wasn't really a fake because they weren't setting up for a field goal. It was just their quarterback wasn't on the field. And it ends up being a bad snap. So there's that. There's the interception. And then late in the game, where Washington State, I believe, they were punting it away, and there was the roughing the punter, a penalty there where San Diego State, I forget who it was, but just a stupid penalty where he goes and is tackling the punter. No reason to be doing that when the Aztecs are about to get the ball. Instead, I believe there was offsetting penalties there, but Washington State ended up getting the ball back. And that was really that, because San Diego State had 2 timeouts left, not 3. And yeah, so the ref calls in this game, I don't know if they were watching the same game as a lot of us were, because there was a block, like a good play by Washington State based on like there being no penalty called, but it was clearly, in my opinion, a pass interference. I mean, the dude was holding the receiver and nothing was called there. So not totally sure what they were looking at there. Yeah, just there was at the end for Washington State to get that first down. I didn't agree with that call. I know there were some that did, but Mateer, the Washington State quarterback, was going to get the first down, obviously, to, pretty much ice the game. I think there was less than 2 minutes left. San Diego State didn't have all 3 timeouts. Just end it there. And I thought he came up short, because isn't the rule when you start your sliding motion, that's where you're down because you're giving yourself up? Maybe you have to actually slide. Mateer didn't slide. He kind of went down. He went down on purpose, though. Like, sure, was he moving forward? Yeah, but he was still going down. So I'm not so sure that should have been ruled a first down there in that situation. When he was giving himself up, he just didn't slide. He kind of tumbled down forward, but he was giving himself up. It's not like someone tackled him and then he was going down. No one had made contact with him yet before he went to go down. So to me, that's giving yourself up, and he should have been short. And there was a long review. That game lasted freaking forever. That went pretty late. But yeah, so it was frustrating because, they had a 12-point lead and then just not able to finish it off there. Like, there were some fun plays to watch, some good drives. There were some encouraging things for sure. But at the same time, obviously the costly interception by Danny O'Neal, some of the ref calls, just making mistakes, dumb penalties. I mean, San Diego State, I think it was going into this game, I was reading in the UT, they were second in the nation with 10 penalties a game. 8 penalties in this game last night for 78 yards. I mean, they were just giving them, when you're giving the other team that many yards like that. And Washington State, obviously, they have one loss this year, and that's the Boise State, who San Diego State plays next on the road, by the way, and they have a Heisman candidate on their team. It's going to be tough for San Diego State to go win that game. It was just, had an opportunity there. And Sean Lewis, I'm not quoting him because I don't remember exactly what he said, but I think his last answer to one of the questions in the post-game presser that he did, he mentioned how, like, this win, proved that San Diego State's a good team, or maybe even said great. And I disagree with that. I mean, as the coach, yeah, you're going to say that this team's, you believe in them, they're good, they're great. Like, you competed with Washington State, you had a lead, right? But good teams are able to finish the job. Good teams don't make those mistakes. Good, great teams shouldn't have players on the sideline not dressed because they did something that they shouldn't have done. That's what it seems like happened there. Missing key starters because for, I guess, disciplinary reasons, So it's the first year. I'm not saying that I was expecting San Diego State to be a great team and, go compete for the college football playoff or anything like that. But when you have a 12-point lead on Washington State and you're at home and things are going well, I want you to capitalize on that and not give it up there. There was less than 5 minutes left with that 12-point lead. I know that that's plenty of time in football, but still, it's disappointing how the end was there. Aztecs fans, give your thoughts in the comments.